Share capital terms. The share capital terms include the following. First is authorized capital. Second is issued capital. Third, subscribed capital. Fourth one is called up capital, and fifth one is paid up capital. So in this session we are going to discuss about all these terms. So first of all, authorized capital. Authorized capital is the maximum number of shares and amount of capital which a company can raise as per its memorandum of association over a time period. So every company has a memorandum of association, a basic document. According to this document, a company can raise capital, and the maximum number of shares and maximum amount of capital which a company can raise is called authorized capital. For example, a company has 1 lakh equity shares with face value of rupees 10 each. In this case, the authorized capital will be rupees 10 lakh. So this is maximum amount of share capital which a company can have. It is not mandatory that company should raise the entire capital in one go. Company will raise the capital according to its requirement over a time period. So authorized capital, that is the maximum number of shares and maximum amount of capital which the company can raise. Issued capital. Issued capital is the number of shares which have been offered by the company for subscription to prospective shareholders out of the authorized capital. So whenever company want to raise capital, it will go to public, it will go to prospective shareholders, offer to them shares for sale. So that offer in terms of number of shares is called issued capital. So it is number of shares which have been offered for subscription to prospective shareholders. For example, authorized capital is 1 lakh shares of rupees 10 each. Out of this, company for the time being offers to public 50,000 shares for subscription. Here the issued capital is 50,000 shares of rupees 10 each. Now amount of issued capital, it cannot be more than the authorized capital, because issued capital is part of authorized capital, or we can say in other words, capital is issued out of authorized capital. Now subscribed capital. So subscribed capital is the number of shares which have been subscribed by the prospective shareholders against issued capital. So some offer was given to shareholders to subscribe against those shares, and the number of shares which these prospective shareholders subscribe is called subscribed capital. The number of subscribed shares may be more than the issued capital it is called oversubscription, or the number of subscribed share may be less than the issued capital. That becomes a case of undersubscription. For example, authorized capital is 1 lakh shares of rupees 10. Out of this, issued capital is 50,000 shares. If prospective shareholder subscribes 75,000 shares, this means there is oversubscription. Now, what the company would do with this oversubscribed amount? We must note that the amount of subscribed capital cannot be more than the issued capital. If there is oversubscription, the oversubscribed amount will be returned to the prospective shareholders. Called up capital. So called up capital means the amount per share which has been demanded, that is called by the company from the shareholders. The shareholders, they have subscribed to the capital of the company. Now company can demand money from shareholders. So called up capital is that amount per share which company has demanded, means called from the shareholders. For example, face value of the share is rupees 10. Rupees 5 has been demanded, that is called with application, and balance amount will be called after allotment. So in this case, the called up amount is rupees 5 per share out of total amount of rupees 10. So called up capital is that part of the subscribed amount which is called from shareholder. This balance amount can be called according to requirement of the company and terms of the issue. So here in this case, for rupees 10 per share, company has only asked the shareholders to pay rupees 5 per share for the time being. The balance amount will be demanded as per requirement of the company and as per terms of the issue. Now the last term is paid up capital. So paid up capital is the actual amount received by the company against the called up amount. So it is the amount actually received by the company against called up amount. For example, face value of the share is rupees 10. Rupees 5 is called up with application for 50,000 shares which has been received by the company. So in this case, the paid up share capital will be 50,000 shares into rupees 5 which is called up amount. So total amount will be rupees 2,50,000. In this case, the paid up capital will be 5 lakh when entire subscribed amount is called and received. So for the time being, it is 2,50,000. But when the balance amount is also called, in that case, the total paid up capital will come to rupees 5 lakh. Now, distinction between these terms. So, authorized capital. So, this is as given in the memorandum of association. So, this is the maximum amount. Here we have given the example. So 1 lakh shares, rupees 10 each. This means authorized capital is 10 lakh. Now issued. Out of this, whatever amount has been offered for subscription is issued capital. So out of 1 lakh shares, 50,000 shares have been offered for subscription. So here the issued capital is 5 lakh. Out of this, against this issued capital, amount actually subscribed by the shareholders becomes subscribed capital, and this cannot be more than issued capital. So here 50,000 shares of rupees 10 each, it comes 5 lakh in case all the shares have been subscribed by the shareholders. Called up capital, it is amount called out of the subscribed amount. Let us assume rupees 5 per share has been called. So if entire amount is received, in that case it becomes 2,50,000. Now paid up capital. So this is the amount actually received against the called up amount. So called amount was 2,50,000. If entire amount is received, then paid up capital also becomes 2,50,000. So it is paid up capital only that is accounted for in the balance sheet of a company. Other capital, they are simply mentioned, but they are not taken as total of the balance sheet. Thank you friends for watching this video. I hope you have been benefited by the contents of the video. So thank you once again.